that Dalit movement might get onto track to see the material difficulties of Dalits. Okay, otherwise Dalit movement has been all emotionalism. The weird around Ambedkar as an entity. That in one sentence probably it can be concluded. Ambedkar, who was the actually breaker of the icons, he himself is turned into an icon. Now ruling classes will take advantage of it. Their dictum is something like, if Muslims agree to be Islami Hindu, quote unquote, or subscribe to that subordinate position or to Hindus, that means they also call that they are Hindus, Islami Hindu, they won't mind. They develop that identitarian obsession that we are Dalits, we are Dalits. If you say something like that, for instance, I said what annihilation of caste, I do not mean anything beyond what English dictionary says. They have been wrong anytime. That has not been a left culture. They cannot be wrong. Okay.
As a person who has done quite, extensive study in Dalit movement and everything like that, how do you see the current Dalit movement that is happening, which is like, takes the case of Jignesh Mevani or Chandrasekhar Azad. They are not like their sole purpose is not on like winning the elections or being the power. They go beyond that. Like what once you have mentioned, like it should be actually acquiring the rights the people have been denied for so long. Let it be on the land rights or other things. So how do you see the recent Dalit movements? Are they on the right path?
Only in a symbolic way, through Jignesh, or much lesser terms, Chandrasekhar, there is a hope that Dalit movement might get onto track to see the material difficulties of Dalits. Okay, otherwise Dalit movement has been all emotionalism. The weird around Ambedkar as an entity. That in one sentence probably it can be concluded, and it has gone astray to the extent that much of the Dalit movement is in lap of the Hindutva fellows. You might know that for previous 2-3 elections, the total number of reserved seats of SCs have been with BJP, and in last election all parties together they exceed more than that. So what does it mean? So this is the situation of Dalit movement. Now there would be all fragmented cries. That's why I said that even Muslims and Dalits are in the same kind of boat, all hopelessly fragmented communities. So they also do not have a coherence. This identitarian streak that entered Dalit movement has done all the damage. Ambedkar's Ambedkar gave a slogan of annihilation of caste. Now he was the pioneer in running the movement, and he did many things to accomplish this kind of thing. So not necessarily his actions cohered toward that, because he had to see also that there are so many flaws in his formulation, but you can still take the thing sacrosanct, because pioneer always makes a mistake. You see? So it's not something like a Bible he creates or model he creates which is infallible. Such notions, at least I would never subscribe to. So what he said, Ambedkar for instance said in Ranade, Gandhi and Zina, he says many profound things, and that could have been the guide for the Dalit movement. For instance, he says he defined himself as the iconoclast. He defined something like a great man, how the great man could be called and all that thing, and what kind of relationship his followers should have with a great man. So all these kinds of things is explicitly said, and still people ignore. So for instance, he said that great man will not impose his maxims onto the follower, and follower does not have any obligation toward great man, that okay, I am your intellectual slave or something like that. He said that great man provides a shoulder to the next generation or his followers to stand on and see beyond. So that itself shows, and followers actually could be said that okay, you showed me light and I am here, thank you for that, but nothing beyond. So what else? Now Ambedkar, who was the actually breaker of the icons, he himself is turned into an icon. Now ruling classes will take advantage of it, and Ambedkar is totally distorted. Now that original Ambedkar, whatever little that remains and could have been used by Dalit, is no more there. Now it is versions of Ambedkar are floating around, and there is a huge saffronized Ambedkar that these people erected, by which with all state power etc., the Dalit get enamored. All these congregations of Panchatirthas that this Modi has created is exercise in that direction to the extent woo Dalits, because you see it's very complex thing. Dalits is again not according to me understood by most scholars and most Dalit leaders also. So what happens is these people, the ruling classes like Bal Thackeray in Maharashtra has been the first to openly come out saying that the new Buddhist Dalits and other Dalits. So other Dalits were already in Shiv Sena's fold, and new Buddhist Dalit, that means Ambedkarite Dalit. Buddhism was followed by only Ambedkarite Dalit. So he did not care for them. So that kind of statement and similar kind of attitude these people show. So Dalit is not an homogeneous entity. There is a majority caste among Dalits, subcaste of Dalits, so to say. They constitute Ambedkarite. So they are majority caste, all right. For example, Maharsi in Maharashtra, or Chamarsi in Uttar Pradesh, or Parayas in Tamil Nadu here, what is his name? Such kind of communities there among Dalits which actually tend to follow Ambedkar because they identify with Ambedkar. Rest of the people are already in Hindu fold. So that needs to be understood. And now to make inroads in these communities, they try to sort of use Ambedkar and project it in certain ways, that Ambedkar was friends with Hedgewar and so on and so forth. There is a huge literature they produced to confuse Dalits, etc. So that to the extent possible they can make inroads into these, and these people also could be drawn into their fold. But if it doesn't happen, then they will beat them. Okay, they terrorize them and they make them something like others along with Muslims. Same thing with Muslims. There is nothing. Process is not any different. There would be their dictum is something like, if Muslims agree to be Islami Hindu, quote unquote, or subscribe to that subordinate position or to Hindus, that means they also call that they are Hindus, Islami Hindus. They won't mind. So various versions are there in upload, and therefore there are some stooges from the Muslim communities already towing their line directly, and many people indirectly. They might not directly oppose the opposition, but they would be working by their actions to benefit them. So see, it's a similar process. Essentially, they are similar. So this is going on.
So whatever you have said now, and could that be the reason why, though the Dalit movements has started like long back, and they have always been on constant struggle for their rights, whether that for education or land right or anything like that, Dalit movements is always shackled down in a small quarters. Why it is not getting, though it stands for human rights, basic human rights, why it is not getting, why it is not projected like that?
That's what I said, by identitarian obsession of Dalit movement. They developed that identitarian obsession that we are Dalits, we are Dalits. If you say something like that or use a caste TDM to define that identity, This identitarian obsession is based on caste, unfortunately. There are several identities a man wears. Okay, so other may not be so inimical as this thing is there. So because of that, it remains something like a socketed, it remains sectarian. So when you talk in caste EDM, so you automatically voluntarily isolate yourself. Okay, so you do not give a color to the broad human rights, etc. And argument would be that these people, howsoever you go there, have you tried going nearer them? There could be both ways, you know. The state has been working against these processes, these latent processes, that, and they block that sort of converging together. For instance, something like reservation, all these kinds of things, like when I was talking yesterday in Caleb, so this was the topic, like, you know, somebody asked me, was a reservation, for instance. Something like, what do you mean by annihilation of caste? For instance, I said, what annihilation of caste? I do not mean anything beyond what English dictionary says. But the question comes out, what is to be annihilated? That needs to exist. You cannot annihilate something imaginary, right?
Yeah.
So when you talk about annihilation of caste, it has to be something like existing caste, contemporary caste, and the premise goes that the contemporary castes are different from what Ambedkar tackled or what they classically came as, right? So what are contemporary caste? Contemporary caste actually are the sediments of something like a cultural things. Away from Hindu scriptures that Ambedkar defined them to be in, and much of the constitutional structures that sustain it. So what are the constitutional structures? Like reservations, like electoral politics, the way entire thing is designed. These actually are the sustaining basis. The entire Hindutva upsurge also could be linked with this. That there is an innate kind of grudge among people, large amount of people against Muslim. They could be ignited that these are the bens of India. They should have been sent back to Pakistan when partition happened, and Dalits, that these people are the undue beneficiaries of the state largesse. So this grudge, now somebody comes and pans it, you know, so that ignites. So this is the unspoken kind of thing with which they have mobilized the people. These people believe that these are the people, these are the real answers to these kinds of evil that prevailed during post-independence 7 decades. And these are the people who are going to deliver. And this is the way they actually constituted their constituency.
So final question, like you said, Dalit movements couldn't grow as they, like many have wished, is because of their identitarian like concept, which was the Shackleton. Like that left, towards the left movement, one of the major reason is that when Dalit movements were all about their caste, left movement like completely ignored the the one of the major thing that is existing in society, caste. But you have also recently pointed out that rather than being only class focused, now they are also accepting the caste system that is like in the society and all, and because of that you got a lot of criticism too, many from like Ambedkarites and many people like that, when you see Marxism and Ambedkarism and a merge of that. So like how do you think that Marxist or leftist movement have how far they have come, like accepting and realizing the issue and getting.
I'm afraid I might sound I'm critiquing all people. But I would place left at the root of the problem.
Okay.
The problem of left is that they have not understood this land at all. And because of their failure, actually, all things have happened. And Muslim, Dalit, they said are not away from that. They are responsible, because this is almost even today they smack of something like when they extend a hand that Dalits are also important. We also, firstly, they never accept that they have been wrong anytime. That has not been a left culture. They cannot be wrong. Okay. And so empirically what they are doing is that they are extending hands to the Dalit. So that also smacks something like an electoral tactics, Okay, and they creating something like a Dalit department working for Dalits, etc. And we should pay, we ignored them, and this is because that probably we are facing the debacle. Now let's actually draw them in, and so that they vote for us. And horrible. This is not left. Okay, so this is not no left. If left had historically also, there has been they committed many wrongs. Now one need not be jumping onto this is not a left again, that seeing the India and the colors of something like what Marx laid down, proletariat versus bourgeoisie. That's sort of the conceptual framework. One has to understand what Marx was talking about. So they thought that it's a reality. It's not a reality. Nowhere in bourgeois and proletariat are to be found in that puritanical sense. Rather, that's a Brahminical, sanitized kind of conception of caste, a class, which does not exist anywhere. Much worse is India. So the only viable way of conceiving class here could have been with all these kinds of pre-class impurities. Anywhere a class comes like with impurities, and those impurities, in order to dispel them, you have to have the conscious struggle within the class. The class struggle itself actually should incorporate therefore the anti-caste struggle. This could have been the only formulation possible and viable in India. They have not done anything of this kind. There has not been confrontation with the reality of land, and they have been just a parroting kind of thing, and all that they have been doing. Ambedkar was no Marxist. So just because no Marxist does not become a pariah or outcast, okay? But Ambedkar during 30s, when he realized that there has to be broader unity with whatever conception, he carried out, he was the person who was heavily influenced by Fabianism through his professor John Dewey, and then his intellectual making in England. Whatever, people come in different shades and colors, but so long as they are sincere and working for something like common cause, they need to be brought together. So Ambedkar on his part extended a hand, he overcame the initial kind of thing and cooperated, even left cooperated in his struggle, something like land struggle which happened post Ambedkar after his death in 1959. More than 50% people who went to jail led by Dalit were the communists and socialists in Maharashtra. So one cannot say anything against both, I mean Dalits as well as who is to be blamed. I wrote a very longish introduction to that India and communism. In that I have ended. The bottom line would be that this is just a historical flaw that has happened. They diverged, and they ought to now work toward the convergence. That is the only thing that can be said. I have sympathy for both. When left, by conviction I am left, there is no issue about it, and left also would not deny that. But this again comes, like in left circles should be typified as something like Ambedkarite, just because they would identify me. Dalits would say that I am a left. What is the I am? Does not really mean anything when I say that I am noist. I don't care. I don't want to be labeled anyway. Don't call me anything. I am telling you whatever I am understanding. If it is okay, buy it. Otherwise, give it up. So this is the problem. Like in Indian context, there are ready-made oppressed sections in India, Dalits, majority of Muslims, tribals. All these people ought to have come together. They should have been, there would not be any dispute. Now, this only could be something like did not happen because of the sectarian views of each. Some each actually wants to have their own identity and all that kind of thing. This has been a bane. Some way in the wake of crisis or something like that, one hopes that wisdom would dawn on them, and at least on a practicable platform, they could be together. Material platform, a defined material kind of things, they could be together. So I don't see any difficulty in doing that, but something in near future it's not possible, meaning the lurking danger now of these kinds of things. Nothing is happening around, so that's a bad thing.
Okay, thank you so much
Okay.
for sharing. हो गया हमारा. Thank you so much for sharing your very daring critical opinions on almost what is happening in this present India's political scenario and all the movements that is happening. So thank you so much for agreeing to do an interview for DoolNews.